Talk the Mishnah, Ein Bein Bama Gedoilo, there makes no difference between the large Bama. A large Bama means the Mizbeach of Moshe that was standing when they were in Novi Givon. There were times that the Jewish people were not permitted to bring a korban only in the places where there was the Beis HaMikdash, sort of in the time of the Mishkan, in the time of the Beis HaMikdash, only there. Also in Shiloh, they had to bring it to the Mizbeach. But then, in the times in between, in Gilgal, and first they came to Gilgal, and then when they came to Noiv, and then they came to Gibeon, so that was the time of Heter HaBamis. So Rashi, Ein Bein Bama. So Rashi, what does it mean? Ein Hefresh. It makes no difference when Pshas Heter HaBamis. When Bamis are permissible. Sometimes Bamis are not permissible. When they're not permissible, it means that you have to bring the korban to the Beis HaMikdash. You have to bring it to the Mizbeach, to the permanent Mizbeach. But there is sometimes, in the times in between, before Yerushalayim was chosen, and after the Mishkan, there were times in between in which there was permissible to bring a korban not on the Mizbeach, but rather on a large bama. There's two kinds of bama. There's a bama which was served as the large bama, which was in the central place which everybody came to. And then there was a bama that a person can bring in their backyard, build a tall, elevated area, make that in a mizbeach. So what kind of korbanos can you bring on these bamas? So when we talk about the regular mizbeach in the Beis HaMikdash, in the Mishkan, all korbanos are brought there. But what kind of korbanos do you bring on the bama? And is there a difference between the korbanos you can bring on a bama gedola and korbanos that you can bring a bama katana? So our Mishnah says, Ein bein bama gedola. It makes no difference to a big bama, la bama katana. Basically, everything that you're allowed to bring on a bama gedola, you can bring on a bama katana. What are we talking about? Dr. Rashi, Ein bein bama, ein hefresh. It makes no difference. And we're talking when b'shas heter habamis, when bamis are permissible. That's what we're talking about. Because when they're not permissible, you're not going to bring at all anything on them. But at the time that bamis are permissible, in between the times that you are allowed to bring on a bama, so it makes no difference. Bein bama gedola, whether it's a large bama, meaning a central bama. What is the bama gedola? Ze mizbeach shel Moshe. That is talking about the mizbeach of Moshe Rabbeinu that the Jews built in the desert. It went along with them during their travels until they built the permanent Beis HaMikdash Yerushalayim. And they went first to Gilgal, and then they went to Shiloh, and they went to Noiv, and then they went to Gibeon. So the Mizbeach Shel Moshe, when they were in Noiv and Gibeon, it was the time that the bamas were permissible. So it makes no difference the korbanos you can bring on that Mizbeach, the bama katana, to a small bama. What's a bama katana? That's a Mizbeach Shel Yochid. It's an individual Mizbeach. You have your own Mizbeach. Shekol Yochid v'Yochid. Each individual makes a bama for himself. So you can bring a korban in your backyard. You made a bama during the time of heter habamis, when bamas are permissible, and you can make a bama in your backyard and bring the korban there. So there is no difference. Any korban you can bring in the bama gedolah, you can bring in your backyard in the bama katana. Ela psachim. A korban Pesach that we have to bring on the 14th day of Nisan, which everybody is required to bring a korban, that korban needs to be brought only on the Bama Gedolah, on the Mizbech that Moshe made. And you cannot make it in your backyard. You cannot shech the korban Pesach in your backyard. We'll see. What is the korban? Why does he single out the korban Pesach? The korban Pesach is number one, it's a communal korban. What does it mean it's a communal korban? Everybody has to bring in. It's considered like a communal korban, meaning the whole community has to bring it. Sometimes a communal korban means that everybody participates in one korban, sort of. Every morning you have a korban tzibur, the korban tamid in the morning, in the afternoon, korban musaf, those are called korban tzibur. They represent the whole tzibur. But the korban Pesach is also considered a korban which everybody brings. Every individual brings that, but it's a korban tzibur. But this is something which you're obligated to do at a specific time. On the 14th day of Nisan, everybody has to bring a korban Pesach. Such a korban has to be brought only in a Bama Gedolah. On the Bama Gedolah and not a Bama Ketana. We'll see soon in the Gemara the other korbanos. Further, the Mishnah gives another rule. And the rule is that the only korbanos that can be brought on the small bama actually, I'm sorry, not on the small bama, on either bama, is only korbanos that you not obligated, but it's something that you voluntarily bring. Zaklal, this is the rule. Kol shehu nidar v'nidav. If you can make a vow, or you can make a gift. Nidar means more, you say, Hare olai, upon me. Nidav, I say Hare zu, whether you're responsible to bring another one if you lost it. But basically, it's a voluntary korban. If it's a voluntary korban, then korev b'bama. Then you can bring in a bama. Sorry, Rashi says clearly, we're talking about a bama katana. You can only bring in a bama katana something which is a voluntary korban. V'chol she'enei lo nidar v'lo nidav. But if it's not vow and not gifted, which means it's an obligatory korban, it's not something that you give. Einei korev b'bama. You cannot bring it on a small bama. You can't bring it. The only things you can bring in your backyard is if you make a voluntary gift. But if it's something that you can't vow or gift, something that you're obligated, then you got to bring it to the Bama Gedolah. You have to bring it. You have to bring it. What?
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
So we see in Nevi'im that they praise this king, they praise that king for destroying all the bumos that people have in their yards. So
yeah, but that was for Avodah Zarah. This is talking about bama to bringing an offering for Hashem. It's permissible to do so. Then Bama Seyim to Toitzim is talking that they use that for Avodah Zarah. But this is and that's only permissible in those times. Other than that, it's not permissible. But you find in the Chumash, Abram built Mizbeach, and Yitzchak built Mizbeach, and Yaakov built Mizbeach. Those were all bummas. Those were individual bummas. I mean, that was before Matan Torah, of course. But I'm saying, but the concept of bringing Hevel brought and Cain, brought offerings already. So you have the concept, but this bama is allowed for a Mizbeach for Hashem.
Even after the Beis HaMikdash was standing.
Once the Beis HaMikdash is in existence, we'll see in the Gemara in a minute. The Gemara is discussing.
You can't even bring a kosher korban on your own.
On a backyard,
no barbecue.
It's usher. There is an opinion actually that says it may be okay, but we'll see in the Gemara.
Okay.
But here you see something else. So here you see that not only he's basically saying any obligatory korban right, can be brought on a bama katana, cannot be brought on a bama katana, right? So why did the Gemara say before that only psochim cannot be brought on a bama katana? Not only a Pesach cannot be brought on a bama katana. Actually, you can't bring any obligatory korban. The Gemara says, the Mishnah says, if it could be gifted, vowed or gifted, nadar nedava, you make a promise or a gift, a nadar nedava, that's the only thing that you can bring on a bama katana. But if it's not gifted, but you're obligated, such as the korban Pesach is also, so it basically precludes any obligatory. So how come the Mishnah says only a korban Pesach you can't bring? Not only a korban Pesach you can't bring. The difference between a bama gedolah and a bama katana, you can't bring any obligatory. So why do we choose to say you can't bring a Pesach? Basically, in the second part of the Mishnah, it says a lot more than in the first part of the Mishnah, it would seem. We'll see in the Gemara. The Gemara is going to ask this right away. Okay, so basically, the Mishnah says that the Bama Katana, you can only, first it says bring the Korban, cannot bring the Korban Pesach. Basically, it would seem that any other obligatory Korbanos you should be able to bring on the Bama Katana, because he says there's no difference. And over here, it says that essentially all obligated V'torah Korbanos you can't bring on a Bama Katana, only Bama Gedolah. So let's look at the Gemara. Frag the Gemara, Pesachim, you say the only thing you can't bring at the Bama Katana is Pesachim. V'suloi, nothing else that you can't bring on the Bama Katana? But the truth of the matter is, you can't bring at the Bama Katana any other things also, all obligatory Kabbalas. Rashi, Psochim v'suloi, V'katani seifa, and nothing, suloi question mark, nothing else. V'katani seifa, but doesn't it say in the second part of the Mishnah, Kol she'einoi nidar v'nidav, einoi kareh b'Bama Katana, that if you cannot give it as a gift, a vow or a gift, you can't bring it the Bama Katana. But the ilu b'gedolah, hoyu makrivin korbanos tzibur tzimidim u'musafim. A gedolah, you know. So basically, on a Bama Katana, you can't bring anything on a Bama Katana. That's obligatory. Not only Pesach. What did they bring on the Gedolah? They brought the Korban Tzibur U'Musafim, Timidim U'Musafim, the communal sacrifices, the Korban Tamid and the Korban Musaf. Now, of course, where are the people going to bring the korban that all Yidden have to bring? Of course, what is it? No person has a right. Why were they going to bring it like in their backyard? The Gedolah, what would they do? They'd have to bring the Korbanos Tzibur, the communal sacrifices, right? That's what they would bring there. So technically, the Mishnah should say, At el psachim, there's no different bama gedol bama katana, but you don't bring any korbanos tzibur you don't bring over there. So Rashi explains now there is another korban, which is a communal korban. So we have the communal korban which we bring every day, or Shabbos, Yontiv, Musaf. Those are the regular ones that go in the Gedolah. But there's sometimes a communal korban, another communal korban, but it doesn't have a set time. So the Gemara says that just psachim. But what happens? Kosalka daitoch, it entered that mind. Av chayvus tzibur, she'en kavulam zman. So there is a korban tzibur that doesn't have a set time. How you craving bo? They would be brought on a small bama. What kind of a korban tzibur is that? Kikoin par helem dover shel tzibur. These are two korbanos. Sometimes the Torah talks about when the whole community, the Beis Din, makes a mistake in their ruling, and the whole community follows and does an avera. So the Torah gives a bull as a korban over there for their accident. It's called Helem Davar Shel Tzibur. The item was hidden, Helem, from the community, which means all of the community did a sin because the Beis Din, the Sanhedrin, ruled that something was permissible. So they have to bring a par, or sometimes they have to bring a goat if they ruled with regards to Avodah Zorah, that it was something that was permissible. These are called Korbanos Tzibur. Why are they Korbanos Tzibur? Because they are a whole community sin over here. So now, the Gemara thinks that if it is a communal korban, since it doesn't have the time, it's not a time limit, so then you can bring it on a bama katana, because it's not a time korban. So basically, actually, what Rashi is saying over here, that right now we're thinking that communal obligations that don't have a zman were brought on the Bama Gedolah. It's still, those are not the Bama Ketana, the Bama Gedolah. The Gemara is going to say later on that if there was not a set time, they weren't brought even on the Bama Gedolah, they weren't brought at all. But now Rashi is just telling you that in the thought of the Gemara right now, still we'll learn later on, we're thinking that the obligation of the community that don't have a time also were brought on the Bama Gedolah. But back to our question over here, why does the Mishnah say that only psachim are not brought on the Bama Ketana, but really nothing is brought on the Bama Ketana? All obligatory korbanos are brought on the Bama Gedolah. So psachim is also an obligatory korban. So why does the Gemara say psachim? That's the Gemara's question. Frag the Gemara, psachim v'suloi, is it only a korban Pesach that you don't bring on the Bama Ketana? Well, what about all the other korbanos obligatory? They're not brought on the Bama Ketana either. Whether they're now the Gemara think whether they're a set time, they're not a set time. Well, we don't bring anything on the Bama Katana. So why does it say just the Pesachim, you don't bring on the Bama Katana? And the Gemara says, Eima ke'ein Pesachim. Say like Pesachim. What he's trying to tell you is that in order to bring them on the Mizbeach, on the Bama Gedoyla, it's only if it is similar to Pesachim. Ke'ein Pesachim b'chol choves hakavu lehem zman k'Pesachim. Only like Pesachim are brought on the Bama Gedoyla and not on the Ketana. Nothing is brought on the Ketana. But only the ones that are brought on the Bama Gedoyla, if they're like Pesachim, that they have a specific time. But if they don't have a specific time, you're not going to bring them on the Bama Gedoyla either. So this Pesachim is not trying to tell you that that's the only thing you don't bring in the Bama Ketana. On the Bama Ketana, you're not going to bring any korbanos that are kol she'ein nidar v'nidav. You're not going to bring there. But the reason we're saying Pesachim is to tell you that even on the Bama Gedoyla, you're not going to bring something which is not like a Pesach, which has a set time. But if it's another korban tzibur, like the par, helam dover, or the soir of the chatos, which is a communal korban, you don't bring in either on the Bama Gedoyla. That's why it says Pesachim. It has to be like Pesachim. B'chol choves hakavu lehem zman k'Pesachim are the ones that you're going to bring on the Bama Gedoyla. But if it doesn't have a time, like the korban helam dover shel tzibur, par shel tzibur, and the soir shel chatos, you're not going to bring them on the Bama Gedoyla either. That's why it says Pesachim. Again, so what does it mean when it says that there is no difference between the big and the small Mizbeach? In which things are they equal? So basically what it means, they're the same as far as voluntary korbanos. If you want to bring a voluntary korbanos, you can bring them either on the Bama Ketana or on the Bama Gedoyla, no difference. But when we talk about an obligatory korban, if it is like a Pesach, which has a set time, then you can only bring it on the Bama Gedoyla. But if it doesn't even have a set time, then you can't bring it at all. Mani, who does this follow? Who says it? Masnis in the Katoni, our mission that says, the Bama Ketano ein korban shum chayva, that there's no korban obligatory brought on the Bama Ketana. And he says the Bama Gedoyla isn't any better, only with what? So I got to correct myself. So there is no difference between a Bama Gedoyla and a Bama Ketana with regards to what? Two things. With the voluntary korbanos and with the korbanos that have no time. Because a korban tzibur has no time, you can't bring either place. You can either bring it in no place or bring it in both places. The only thing, if it's a set time and it's an obligatory, you can bring it the Bama Gedoyla. So masnis in the Ketani. The Bama Ketana ain't korban shum chayva. That no chayva is brought in the Bama Ketana. And he also said that the great large Bama isn't better. Only in those obligations that have a time. And if they don't have a time, you can't bring it on either one. That's the Mishnah, Reb Shimoni. That's the opinion of Reb Shimon. Reb Shimoni, the Omar beperik, Basra de Zvachim. He says in the second, last perik of Zvachim, Af tzibur lo yikrivu bebama gedoylo shum choyva. Even a community did not bring on a Bama Gedoyla any obligatory korbanos, elo psachim, only the korban Pesach, the choyvas hakavu lehem zman, and obligatory that have a time. Avol choyvas she'ein kavu lehem zman, but those obligatory korbanos that don't have a time. Kigoin par helam dover shel dover v'sirei avodah zara. You don't bring him in either place. So it turns out that the Bama Gedoyla and Bama Ketana are the same with two obligatory korbanos, which don't have a time, you don't bring it in either. And they're the same in the voluntary korbanos, you bring them in both. But the Mishnah cannot go like the Rabbanon over there. Why? The Amri, they say, whatever the community brought in the oil moed in the midbar, you can bring in the oil moed of Gilgal. Remember, we said before, it's both in the Gilgal, it was also Hutra Habamos. During the Gilgal, Noivin Givai. Shiloh was Osir again. But during the Gilgal, over there, Makrivim Boil Moed Sheba Gilgal. The Yibama Gedoyla, that's a Bama Gedoyla. Afilu Parel Dover. This doesn't go like our Mishnah. Mastis and Kotani, Pesach Yetzibem. Mishnah said only Pesach we learned is like a Korban Pesach, which has a set time. That you can bring on the Bama Gedoyla, but not the Tzibur that does not have a set time. The Tanya, quoting now this Mishnah, Rabbi Shimon says, Av Tzibur lo ikrivu el psochim v'choyves shekavu lamzman. Also, the community did not bring on the Bama Gedoyla only the psochim and the choyves, the obligation that have a time. The Tamid, the Musav, Rosh Chodesh, what you have to bring a set time. They don't have a time like the Parel Dover, Sira V'Dezora, whether it's on the Bama Gedoyla, whether it's on the Bama Ketana, like Korev, you didn't bring. Okay. That leaves us to the next Mishnah. Let's do quickly a little bit the next Mishnah. This is the final Mishnah with Ein Bain, and then we're going to finally get to the interpretation of the Megilah. So, Ein Bain Shiloi L'Yerushalayim. So this is the years that the Beis Hamikdash stood in Shiloi, or the Mishka that was in that time was, what was it like? How many years the Rambam said? Shloish Meis V'Teisha V'Shishim Shana Omnad Migdash Shiloi. 369 years, a long time. It had a house or structure of stones, and they put the covers of the Mishkan over it. Okay, in that time, the Bamis was Osir. So it was almost like Yerushalayim. So there is no difference between Shiloh and Yerushalayim. What is the difference? Kochim Kalim are the light Kochim. There's two categories. A Korban Oila is called a Kochim Kodoshim. It's all on the Mizbeach. That you can only eat inside the courtyard. The Kochim Kalim, the Shlomim, they can be eaten in all Yerushalayim. So, in Shiloi, when they were in Shiloi, Oichlim Kochim Kalim, Umaiser Sheni, these things that have to be eaten in Yerushalayim, also Maiser Sheni, that you have to bring up, has to be eaten in Yerushalayim. So over there, it didn't have to be within Shiloi over there. The Chol HaRoya. Chol HaRoya means as far as you can see. Wherever you can see Shiloi, that's considered the place, just like Yerushalayim is when they moved to Yerushalayim. So by Shiloi, as long as you can see it. Over there, the last chapter of Zochim gives you the reason. But Ubi Yerushalayim, when Yerushalayim, this has to be Lifnim min HaChoyma. It has to be inside of the wall. It has to be inside the wall in Yerushalayim, surrounded by the wall of Yerushalayim. V'kan, and both by the Shiloh and Yerushalayim, Koche Kadoshim nechol Lifnim min HaKloim. But the Holy of Holies, the Chatos, the Korban Chatos, for example, that has to be eaten inside of the curtains. Inside of the curtains in Yerushalayim, meaning in the Azorah. Inside of the curtains in Shiloh, and that's all. Then the Mishnah says further, Kedushas Shiloh, the sanctity of Shiloh. Yesh achareho heter. There is permission. In other words, once Shiloi was destroyed, the Bamos became permissible. Yesh achareho heter. So Rashi, k'shechorva Shiloi, it answers a lot of the questions that we had before. K'shechorva Shiloi hutra Bamos. Once Shiloi was destroyed, now the Bamos are permissible. K'damrina Maseches Vachim, Daf Kuf Yutes Amud Beis. The pasuk says there, "Ki loy bosem ad oto el hamnucha." It says you hadn't reached yet the resting place, and then the pasuk says further, "Vel hanachalo." So there's two stops. Menucha is one stop. That was the 300 and what was it, 69 years that they were in Shiloi. That's called the time of menucha, resting. Zu Shiloi. Why? That they rested, they stopped, they already conquered everything. So that was a milestone. But then the pasuk says, "And to the Yerushalayim." So why did the Torah say you haven't come yet to the final resting place? Just Nachala, just Yerushalayim, which was the final stop. The Torah makes you two stops. Why did the Torah split them? That's to tell you, there's one resting place over there. That was the one place where the Mishkan stood and Bamos were prohibited. Then it stopped over there and it went till the Nachla, Yerushalayim. And therefore, Ukudushas Yerushalayim, Ein Achareo Heter. Following Yerushalayim, there is no more Heter. It remains Asur forever. Basically, once Yerushalayim is there, the Bamos are never permitted anymore after that. Okay, we'll leave it over here. We'll give over a short word on today's parsha. Just here or next time. Okay. Okay, so just the name of the parsha this week is Chaye Sora. Because of course that's the first pasuk. We have two times the words Chaye Sora. It says Vayu Chaye Sora, Meya Shavana, Sheva Shanim, 127 years. This is the pasuk says Shnei Chaye Sora. This was life of Sora. The summation, basically, the first pasuk in the parsha sums up the years of Sora. And from that point on in the parsha, it talks everything that happened after her life. It talks about her burial. It talks about Yitzchak marrying a wife. Eliezer sends, Avram sends Eliezer to find a wife for his son Yitzchak. He finds Rivka. He brings her home. And she's just like his mother, all the miracles that took place in his mother's tent. Same thing went back to Yitzchak. He comforted after his mother. Talks about after her life. Then at the end of the parsha, it talks about Avram actually marrying a second wife again, Keturah, which is Hagar. So the question is, since all the parsha is talking about afterlife, why do we call it Chaye Sora? The name of the parsha should be like the naming of something should be the content. But here we're talking, everything is actually the antithesis of Sarah's life. This is all after her life. So it seems a little bit strange to call this parsha Chaye Sora when it's not really the life of Sarah. The Rebbe brings out an important idea over here that true life, which is worthy of living a life, which means living a moral life, a holy life, a good life, a life of tzedakah, chesed, holiness, connection with Hashem. The true life only comes into real play after the person leaves this world. In other words, we have, for example, the saying, the Gemara says, that Yaakov didn't die. If you look in the Chumash, by Yaakov it says, Vayigva, he expired. It doesn't say died. So the Gemara makes a note. What does it mean? Yaakov didn't die, but they embalmed him, they eulogized him, they buried him. What do you mean he didn't die? And the Gemara says because his children are alive, he's alive as well. basically, if you continue the life in the next generation, then your life was really a life. The Rebbe points out that Sarah's life really became evident, Chayi Sarah, in after her passing, in the way Yitzchak behaved and the way her life was remembered and the way they people treated. That's the way to really continue the life of a person. And sometimes a person passes away, and that's the cessation. It is dead, which means he was alive and now he's gone, and he's no more here. And take an example. Marshall, take it from the Rebbe. It's already been 27 years since the Rebbe physically is not here. But his life continues, his message, his inspiration keeps on growing and growing. That means, Zara B'chaim, Avu B'chaim, he goes stronger. I told him the story that I once heard that when they had this famous raid in Entebbe, in Uganda, the Israeli Air Force, the whole world was in awe of the bravery and the mission, the success. It was and unfortunately, there was the Mefaket, the one who was in charge of the whole mission, was Bibi's brother. He perished. Yonatan.
Yeah.
Yoni. He died. And he died right in the beginning. And yet, the soldiers were able to continue even without the commander being there. And so the eulogy said, the sign of a real commander is that even if when he's not physically there, the people continue and know what to do and do the right thing. And that's an amazing tribute for somebody. When you say Shnei Chayi Sarah, you know that his life didn't end, because you see the impact of the life in generations and for many, many years to follow. That tells us about the strength of the person. And I was saying this about, unfortunately, I don't know if Roy, did you know who Mitch Posner, Dr. Posner, Mitch Posner? Did you know Mr. Posner?
No, I
He was, Radomski?
Yes.
Radomski's daughter was married to him. He's a son-in-law of Stu Radomski, the electrician. And so, at the people at the funeral and elsewhere, everybody was speaking about, of his kindness and how devoted he was, always asking and calling and making sure and everything else. And I said that, if we continue, and I'm bringing up the name now for dedicating the class, Lil Nishmosei, he was a good friend of mine, because he would come every morning actually to study with me. We would study in the morning. We have a Zoom class in which we do the Rebbe's letters, and he would come every morning. And he had some back problems, but this was something which he enjoyed and he learned. And it was a small class, a few people, and one person of the class is missing, so there's a big void, So just wanted to, still fresh and new, wanted to mention that the Neshama should have an Aliyah, and we should zocha to meet Mashiach, and all the troubles will be gone. So, okay, we'll leave it over here. Wish everybody a good night and a good week. And see you again in Mitzvah Shem next week.
Thank you.
Go get some rest, Roy.
Yeah, that's gonna be in bed in 3 minutes.
Good night.